Alrighty, y'all. So we're going to go over 8.3 today. And 8.3 covers what we call polynomial division. And y'all, the only division we're going to look at when we're dividing our polynomials is what we call synthetic division. Okay, so three things we'll use synthetic division for. Well, in this class, we'll just use it for two of them since this is just regular college algebra. So two things we're going to use it for in this class is to find function values. And that'll be like find f of 2 or f of 3 like we were doing before. And before we had to plug the number into the function to figure out the value. So I'll show you another way using synthetic division to do that. Second thing we'll use synthetic division for is to determine if a number is a 0. So we'll use it to determine if a number is a 0 of a polynomial. Alrighty, so I'm going to work an example while I explain how to do synthetic division because it's sort of tricky. So the first thing I'm going to write is a note about finding function values on this, okay? So we got a little rule that says that when doing synthetic division, the remainder is equal to the function value. All right, so this is what we sort of call the remainder theorem, and it tells us that when we do synthetic division, the remainder we get is going to equal the function value that you would get had you put that number into the function. So I'm going to give us an example, and then I'm going to write out the steps as we go through this. So they're giving us f of x equals x to the third minus 13x squared plus 52x minus 60. They want us to find f of 2, f of a negative 5, and f of 6. So what I'm going to do is start out by finding f of 2 using synthetic division. In the past, you would have took the 2 and replaced all the x's with it and came up with an answer that way. Alrighty, so steps for synthetic division. First thing we want to do is write the coefficients of the polynomial. So I'm going to write the coefficients of the polynomial. All right, let me get one more in here. All right, so the coefficients of this polynomial are going to be the 1 in front of the x3, the negative 13, the 52, and the negative 60. Now, you always have to have one more number written than the highest exponent. So since the highest exponent is a 3, that's telling me I need 4 numbers here. So what I would do, if any of my terms here were missing, I would have to use a 0, sort of like y'all would when y'all was doing long division. So let's write the coefficients. We got a 1, -13, 52, and -60. Now, what I do, once I write these coefficients, I put a little space here, and I'm going to draw half a box under that. So leave a little space in between because we're going to be putting numbers here also, okay? Now, I got half a box, and I'm going to square in the last section. So under the -60, I'm going to square in that box, because what's going to go in that box when we're done is the remainder. And remember, we said up here on this theorem that the remainder will equal the function value when we're done. All right, so we got our coefficients, and then we drew our box underneath. Next, we got to find our C. C is sort of what we're going to be dividing by. So over here, I draw another half a box, and in that I'm going to put my C. So when you're using synthetic division to find function values, your C's are going to be the actual numbers you're trying to find the function values of. So my first C I'm going to find will be 2. Okay. On my next problem when I do it, my C will be the -5. And then on my third one, my C will be the 6. Okay. Alrighty, so we found our C. So now here's where you start getting a lot of repetition. So what we do, we bring the first number down into the box. So what I mean is we're going to take this 1 and we're going to bring it straight down into that box. Okay, any number that's in the box, what I need to do now is find the number that's going to go under that -13. So to get that number, I take the number in the box, multiply by the C, and put it in the next column. So I would do 1 times 2 is 2, and put that into the next column. So multiply the 1 times 2 and put into next column. All right, so now since I got 2 numbers in that second column, I need to find what number is going to go down here in the box next. So to get that number, I'm going to add the -13 and the 2 and get a -11. So add the column and put into the box. All right, y'all, guess what? I need to find the next number that's going to go under the 52 in that column. So to get that number, I'm going to take the number we just put into the box, multiply by the C. So -11 times 2 is -22. So what we're doing now is we're repeating the process. Okay, so guess what I'm going to do to these 2 numbers? I'm going to add them up so I can see what number is going in the box next. So 52 and a -22 is 30. So then we put our 30 into the box. And then to get the last number in the last column, I'm going to take that 30, multiply times 2. So 30 times 2 is 60. So my remainder is going to be what I get when I add that negative 60 to that positive 60, which will give me 0. So what I'm going to do is show y'all on the calculator the answer that I would have got had I put a 2 in for these x's. So let's go. Let's see. It's turning on. So that was 2 to the third minus 13 times 2 squared plus 52 times 2 minus 60. So let's see. Had we have plugged our 2's in, we would have got an answer of 0. So what this tells me is that f of 2 equals 0, which was my remainder. All right, y'all, so I'll do the other 2 so that y'all can see this process, okay? So I'm going to move this down a little bit. So next, I'm going to find f of negative 5. So my coefficients are going to be the same. So I got a 1, negative 13, 52, and a negative 60. I'm going to draw my box. All right, so this time I said I was finding f of negative 5, so C will be a negative 5. And once again, I'm looking for what my remainder is going to be to get my answer. Y'all want to follow these same steps. So we got our C, so we're going to bring the first number down into the box. So the 1 is going to come straight down into the box. Then it says multiply that number times, well, this time my C will be negative 5 instead of 2. So I'm going to multiply the 1 times negative 5. That's going to give me a negative 5. Then it says add the column and put into the box. So negative 13 plus a negative 5 is negative 18. All right, y'all, then repeat the process. Negative 18 times negative 5 is a positive, what's that, 90? Ninety and 52 is 142. Well, y'all, I'm going to have to calculate this one here. 142 is now going to multiply by the negative 5. That's giving me a negative 710. And to get my final answer, I will add the negative 710 to the negative 60 and get a negative 770. So once again, let me show you on the calculator. Had you done that on the calculator, you would have did negative 5 to the third minus 13 times negative 5 squared plus 52 times negative 5 and then minus 60. So either way, you're going to get negative 770. So sometimes if you don't like messing with them big exponents and stuff, use a little synthetic division, you get the same answer. So here we go. F of negative 5 equaled a negative 770. All right, so I think I got room. I'm going to do that last one on this page real quick, which is f of 6. So I'm going to write my coefficients. 1, negative 13, 52, negative 60. Draw the box. And this time I said my C was 6. Oh, y'all, so not bad. We're going to do the same thing. Repeat the process. Bring that 1 straight down. All right, and 1 times 6 is 6. That goes in the next column. Add negative 13 and 6, get a negative 7. Multiply negative 7 times 6, get a negative 42. Add 52 and a negative 42, that's going to give me what, a 10. Multiply 10 times 6 to get a 60. And then y'all finally add that negative 60 to that positive 60 and get a remainder of 0. So if you put zeros in on that calculator, you're going to get an answer of 0 for that. And so f of 6 equals 0. So that's the main thing we're learning today is this synthetic division. So do y'all got any questions on those ones? Because I'll do enough of these today that y'all are going to know synthetic division by the time we're done. And y'all need to know this because 8.4, we're going to use a lot of synthetic division, okay? So if there's no questions, I'm going to turn over and continue on more. All right, so let me move this back up. All right, so another one, finding function values. We're given f of x is going to equal x to the 4th minus x to the 3rd minus 6x squared plus 32x minus 33. They want us to find f of a negative 5. So they're going to kill y'all with negative numbers, but they're trying to get y'all good at these signs on this, okay? So we don't have to write instructions, so this will go a little bit quicker this time. So I'm going to write out my coefficients. Now, since my highest exponent is 4, if you add 1 to 4, you get 5, which means we need 5 numbers. Because you always got the exponents and then your constant term at the end. So let's write our coefficients. We got a 1, negative 1, negative 6 in front of the x squared, 32 in front of the x, and then my constant term at the end is a negative 33. All right, we're going to draw our box. And then I'm going to box off the last one. All right, so since I'm finding f of negative 5, my c will be negative 5. So once again, our answer will be whatever we get for our remainder on this. All right, y'all, so remember, step number 1, bring the first number down into the box. So to get my second number in the column, I'm going to multiply 1 times negative 5. So 1 times negative 5 is a negative 5. The columns get added. So negative 1 plus my negative 5 is going to equal negative 6. So y'all watch out. I get a lot of people, when they add those two negatives, they make that a positive 6. But that's only for multiplying and dividing about the like signs, okay? All right, now I got a negative 6 times a negative 5 is a positive 30. Then you're going to add that negative 6 and 30 to get a positive 24. All right, 24 times a negative 5 is a negative, what's that, 120? All right, negative 120 plus 32 is a negative 88. Right, and finally, that negative 88 times a negative 5 is going to give me 440. So to get my answer, we're going to add that 440 with that negative 33, and that'll give us a positive 407. So f of negative 5 equals 407. All right, so that was one thing I could do with synthetic division. Remember, I said there was two things I could do with synthetic division. So let me give you another little rule here, because we're going to use synthetic division to tell whether a number is a zero of a polynomial. So here we go. The number of a polynomial is a zero if the remainder from synthetic division is zero. So remember, if it's a zero of a polynomial, that means that's the numbers that it's crossing the x-axis at, okay? Because we said zeros were the same as x-intercepts, okay? So if it's a zero or a factor of that polynomial, my remainder will be zero when I do my synthetic division. So here we go. We're going to use synthetic division determine if the given numbers are zeros of the polynomial. All right, so they want me to check two numbers, negative 5 and 3. My polynomial is going to be f of x equals 2x to the third plus 7x squared minus 11x plus 20. So I'm going to check these two numbers and see if they're zeros. So these answers will be yes and no answers, okay? And remember, in MATLAB, put them in the order that they're giving them to you on here. So answer the negative 5 first, and then we'll answer about the 3. So what we want to do is write our coefficients. Exponent 3 plus 1 is 4, so I need 4 numbers. So I got a 2, 7, negative 11, and a 20. I'm going to draw my box. And then find my C. And the C is going to be those numbers they're giving me. So the first one I'm going to try is my negative 5. All right, so you're going to do this the same way we was doing the earlier ones. We're going to bring the first number down. So this time it was a 2. I'm going to get the next number in the next column by multiplying the 2 times the negative 5. So 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. You're going to add this column up. 7 and negative 10 give you a negative 3. So y'all are going to keep repeating the process. Multiply, bring the number over, add. And it just keeps looping, okay? So negative 3 times negative 5 is a positive 15. Oh, let's see, 15 minus 11, that's going to give me what, a 4? 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. Then when I add that last column, 20, a minus 20 is a 0. So since the remainder is 0, that means yes, negative 5 is a 0. So yes, negative 5 is a 0. Okay? So now we need to check 3. So let's bring our 3 over as the next C. Coefficients are the same. 2, 7, negative 11, and 20. Draw my box. So any of y'all sort of feel brave enough to run me through this? All righty, so here we go then. Bring that 2 straight down. Multiply 2 times 3 and get me a 6. All right, then we will add that column up. 7 plus 6 will give me 13. All right, get my next number. I'm going to multiply 13 times 3. Oh, what's that, 39? All right, let's see. 39 minus that 11 is, what, 28? All right, get my last number, 28 times 3. All right, I think that's, what, 28 times 3, 84. That's going to give me an 84. And then finally, 20 plus 84 is what, 104, which is not 0. So since I did not get a remainder of 0, that means no, 3 is not a 0. Okay, so that means if you were to graph this, and what y'all learned last week, remember, since that's a odd exponent and that's an even number, this graph is going to go uphill, left to right. So that means that it's going to cross somewhere at negative 5 on one of these zeros it's got, okay? So y'all didn't have to know that. All righty, so I'm going to try more of these. It's not a big homework assignment in this section. I think it's like 5 problems, but some of them got multiple parts. All right, so we're going to stay finding zeros, okay? Same thing. So I'm going to determine if the numbers are zeros. All right, y'all, this time we're checking -2 and 1. And my function is h of x equals x to the 4th plus 3x to the 3rd plus 2x squared minus 7x plus 1. All right, so once again, we're going to do synthetic division. Looks like twice, right? We got 2 numbers that are checking for. So I'm going to start with the first one, which was the -2 for my first C. My coefficients, let's see, that's the exponent 4, so I need 5 numbers. So we got all of our places. So we got a 1 in front of the x4, a 3 in front of the x cubed, a 2 in front of the x squared, a -7 in front of the x, and then a 1 for my constant term. So I got my numbers written down, so let me make my box. So once again, if it's a 0, I'll get a 0 remainder. If it's not, I'll get some other number. All right, y'all, so what's this about my 6th one to do? So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to bring that 1 straight down. Then I'm going to multiply 1 times -2 to get a -2. I'm going to add the 3 and -2 to get a 1. All right, then I'm going to repeat the process. 1 times -2 is -2. I'm going to add the 2 and -2 to get a 0. All right, let's see. 0 times -2 is 0. Add that column up. -7 and 0 is -7. And then finally, -7 times -2 is a +14. And when you add that, you get a +15, which is not 0. So no, -2 is not a 0. All right, so now we need to check 1. So let me bring over to 1. My coefficients are the same. 1, 3, 2, -7, and 1. All right, y'all, bring the 1 down. Then we multiply. 1 times 1 is 1. Add that column. 3 plus 1 is 4. And I'm just going to keep repeating. 4 times 1 is 4. Let's see. 2 plus 4, that's what, 6? All right. 6 times 1 is a +6. -7 plus 6 is -1. And then finally, -1 times 1 is -1. And if you add -1 and 1, you get a remainder of 0. So since we got a 0 remainder, yes, 1 is a 0. Okay? Now, y'all sort of know I'm into these calculators, right? So I'm going to show you that you can do these on the calculator, but I usually make y'all at least show me one of these by hand on my test. So since I'm doing an online test, I'll probably have to make you do a bonus by hand. How about that? But watch this. I'm going to check both these numbers using synthetic division on my calculator. So you know everything's in programs that I do. And then arrow down till you find SynDiv, which is short for synthetic division. You're going to hit enter and then enter again. So the degree of the polynomial is going to be the 4, because the degree is the highest exponent. And it needs to know that to know how many numbers we got to put in. Because remember, it's always one more number than the highest exponent. Then it wants me to add the coefficients. So the coefficients would be the same numbers. So I got a 1 enter, 3 enter, 2 enter, -7 enter, and a 1 enter. So the first thing I'm going to check is the -2. So I'll do my -2 and enter. So the first thing it gives you is the coefficients of the quotient, which would be the 1, 1, 0, and -7 that are under this box. Okay, so if we were looking for the the quotient, if we were dividing by these numbers, it would be that part right under there. And they would start 1 degree less than the original polynomial. So that means this would be a x to the third plus an x squared, 0x minus 7, and it would have a remainder of 15. But we're not worried about that in this class. What we want to do is hit enter one more time and see what our remainder is. So notice that gave me a remainder of 15. So if I went through this and I got a remainder of 15, I know it's not a 0. Now check this out. It says quit, press 1, and new C, press 2. Well, I have a new C I'm going to try. I'm going to try 1, right? So I put 2 and enter, and it wants to know the next C, which will be 1. Then I hit enter on that. It's going to give me these coefficients. I got a 1, 4, 6, and -1. So that means that that polynomial would be x to the third plus 4x squared plus 6x minus 1. And if I hit enter again, I'm going to get the same remainder I got here, which was 0. Okay, so then it says quit, press 1. So 1, enter, and I'm done. So I'm going to show you all that again. Also, check this one out. Is -2 a 0 of f of x equals x to the third minus 8? So I got an exponent 3. If you add 1 to that, you need 4 numbers, but I only see 2. So let me show you what I got to do. So when I write out my coefficients, I'm going to start with the first one, which is a 1. That's for my x3, right? I don't have an x squared term, so that's got to be 0. I don't have an x term, so that's got to be 0. But I do have my constant term, which is the -8. So whatever your highest exponent is, you've got to account for every single placeholder in a polynomial, okay? So you always add 1 to the highest exponent, and that tells you how many numbers you need. All right, so I drew my box. So my C is a -2. Now, if I went to program and did my synthetic division, the degree of the polynomial was a 3. So you actually got to put 4 numbers into it, which would be a 1, 0, 0, -8. All right, so let's see what we get before we see what that calculator is going to get, okay? So bring down to 1. 1 times -2 is -2. 0 plus -2 is -2. Then I'm going to multiply. -2 times -2 is 4. 0 plus 4 is 4. And then let's see what we get. 4 times -2 is -8. And y'all, if you add a -8 and a -8, you get a -16, which means no, -2 is not a 0. So there's my -2, so let me hit enter. So there's our numbers, 1, -2, and 4. But we want to hit enter once again, and there's our -16, okay? All right, so I always save the best for last. So I got one more problem we'll look at. And this is one of those where I sort of don't mind having my calculator sometimes, because they want to know, is -3/2 a 0 of f of x equals x to the third plus 5/2 x squared plus 9/2 x plus 9/2. So always got to do fractions, right? All right, so the calculator do this, and I'll show you that in a second. So let's see what we're going to get by hand. That's the exponent 3, so I need 4 numbers. So I got 4 terms, so we're good to go. So here's our coefficients. We got a 1, a 5/2, a 9/2, and a 9/2. I'm going to draw my box. And my C is a negative 3/2. So let me quit that and run it again. So this was a degree 3. So you would have had to put in 4 numbers, 1 inner. 5/2 is 5 divided by 2 inner. 9/2 is 9 divided by 2. And then 9/2, 9 divided by 2. And then your C would be the negative 3 divided by 2. So we're going to do it by hand before I let that calculator enter us. All right, so here we go. Bring the first number straight down. All right, y'all, so I got to get the next number under here. So I'm going to multiply 1 times negative 3/2 is a negative 3/2. So remember, you got fractions. So the bottom's going to be the common denominator of a 2. So let's see what's on top. 5 minus 3 is 2. So that gives me 2 over 2, which reduces to a 1. Now you can do that on a calculator. 5 divided by 2 minus 3 divided by 2 would give you a 1. All right, then 1 times negative 3/2 is a negative 3/2. So it's good we're getting a common denominator, okay? So the bottom will be a 2. So let's see what the top gives me. 9 minus 3 is 6. 6 over 2 will reduce to a 3. So there's the quotients, but what we want to really look at is this remainder. So 3 times negative 3/2, so that's like a negative 3/2 times a 3 over 1. Multiply straight across, you get a negative 9 over 2. Oh, look at that. 9/2, negative 9/2, and to give me a 0. So since I got a 0 remainder, yes, negative 3/2 is a 0. Now, y'all, let me show you. This calculator did that. Watch. There's my 113 that it gave me. Same as my quotient. I hit enter again. There's my remainder of 0. So when you're using synthetic division to find zeros, you want a remainder of 0. When you're using synthetic division to find function values, like I did on the first few problems, then the remainder equals the function value. So today was all about synthetic division and about finding, really the main thing was that remainder, right? Alrighty, so let's see, I'm done with that. Alrighty, so let me stop my share. So, anybody have questions?
No.
All right, so I just wanted to keep it mild today, get y'all back in action. So, we'll use this synthetic division when we hit 8.4 on Thursday to help us work some of them problems, okay? So I'll stop our recording and I'll send this out to y'all later today.